listening to On Point. I was glad to hear yesterday that Health Canada had approved a new COVID vaccine. And different from past vaccines, the Moderna vaccine, the bivalent, protects us against two strains, the original strain of the novel coronavirus and the specific Omicron variant. Where I get a little confused is the variant I've been hearing talked about in this vaccine is the Omicron BA1. We haven't talked about BA1 for a while. What I'm hearing more about is BA4, BA5. So is this the right vaccine to put in my arm? I'm putting that question to my next guest, Dr. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, associate professor, faculty of health sciences at the University of Ottawa. Dr. Deonandan, thanks so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I think a lot of Canadians have been waiting for a new vaccine, especially as we are heading into fall. And we know it was crazy enough this summer hearing from friends and family. So you're wondering what it's going to be like in the fall. So tell me your reaction then when we heard Health Canada's announcement yesterday.
Well, first, I'm happy that we are moving ahead with okaying bivalent vaccines. I'm a little surprised that it was the BA1 version and not the BA5 version that the Americans are getting, but I understand why that was. We can talk about why that was in a bit. And I'm also, I want people to be a little, not put too much hope into this vaccine as being the grand messianic savior for this season. It won't be. It will help a lot, but it won't put an end to the crisis. For that, we need the intranasal and pan-coronavirus vaccines, which are coming down the pipeline. But this is an important next step in increasing the immunity in our population.
All right. Why do you think we're having the BA1, the one that attacks the BA1 strain, as opposed to the BA5? As you mentioned, that's what's happening in the U.S. What have you heard?
Well, the difference is in how we assess data. So in the USA, they've decided that it's okay to base their decisions on laboratory and animal testing and not require human clinical testing for new vaccine formulations for this particular vaccine, like they and we do with the flu vaccine. In Canada, we still require human data. So there is human clinical trial data for the BA1 bivalent formulation, but there isn't yet human clinical trial data for the BA5. There is laboratory data. As a result, we're not able to authorize it in Canada until we change that requirement. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Will it make a difference in terms of the bang we get out of the vaccine? Well, that's even more debatable. The data that I've seen suggests that the bivalent vaccines, either BA1 or BA5, give us a little additional protection beyond what the previous booster would have given us, maybe about 20% more antibodies. Is that a lot? It's something. But really, you get the biggest improvement out of being boosted by anything. The existing vaccine, BA1 or BA5, just getting boosted at all gives you an enormous amount of additional protection. Whether it's BA1, like I mentioned, additional 20% protection. If it's BA5, maybe a bit beyond that. So it comes down to what you expect. Will it reduce the probability of becoming infected at all? Yeah, it will. We don't know by how much. Will it reduce the probability of getting a serious outcome like hospitalization? Yeah, probably around 20% reduction or so. It's tough to say. It's tough to advise people on this. Personally, I think we should get the BA5 if we can get it. If you can't have access to BA5, get the BA1. If you can't have access to BA1, get the current one. And they're all going to be good enough.
You know, unfortunately, I've said this to you before, but this pandemic has made everyone armchair epidemiologists. So when you said 20%, I know I'll have listeners saying 20% protection? What?
No.
That doesn't sound very high.
No,
so
that's not what I meant to say.
Yeah,
No.
Exactly, because I think you said 20% more protection, but delve into that because people just hear a number.
Right. If you get boosted with the existing formulation, you get an enormous improvement in outcomes, maybe doubling your protection against serious outcomes. If you get boosted with the BA1 formulation, you get antibody production that's 1.22 times more than the current formulation. That's what I'm saying. Get boosted, absolutely get boosted. But if you get boosted with a bivalent vaccine, you get a slightly better outcome.
1.2. So it's 20% more, because I know someone's going to text me and say, no, Ange, that's so I wanted to highlight that. All right. So here you are saying, okay, this is good. It's good to have a booster. But what's the grand solution? You were saying the messianic, you used a big word there.
Right.
So what are we really hoping for? And I don't want people to say, well, then I'm going to wait for that.
No, you should not wait. That's an important consideration here. We're in a wave right now. We're in hospital crisis right now. If you get boosted right now, you'll get the protection several weeks from now. If you wait, you're not protected during that time in which you wait. And let's say we were to magically get a BA5 booster okayed in Canada now. It would be months before it's available where you live, and probably sometime later until you are in the priority list to get it. So waiting for the ideal vaccine is never a good solution. What I was talking about when I said the messianic solution is intranasal vaccines are showing very good outcomes in research right now. An intranasal vaccine is one that's delivered through your nose. And if you think about a fight breaking out in a nightclub, that's not good. You'd rather keep the bad people out the door in the first place. That's why you have bouncers around nightclubs. So this disease enters through our nose typically. If you can stop it there before it gets further, well, then you prevent all kinds of bad outcomes, including transmission. So an intranasal vaccine elicits the immune response in your nose or in the nose-mouth mucosal area. And the clinical trials suggest that really does a wonderful job at stopping infection and transmission at all. So a lot of countries are experimenting now with intranasal COVID vaccines. India has one that might be going to market soon. The Russians claim to have one as well. And the Western world has several in clinical trials. So it may be another year before those enter mass market. But when they do, I think that's going to have an incredible impact. The Holy Grail is a pan-coronavirus vaccine. That's one that accounts for this coronavirus and all future variants. So you don't have to keep updating the formulation. They're working on that as well. And when we get that, well, we put an end to this nightmare scenario once and for all, I hope.
Yeah. Dr. Raywat Deonandan is my guest this evening, epidemiologist, associate professor, Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa. All right, so you have changed my mind, and I will go for this bivalent one from Moderna, and hopefully there'll be more than from Pfizer as well. However, do you think, I mean, obviously provinces will roll it out differently, but if there isn't a good uptake and they just open it up to everyone, is someone who is in a healthy category, I'm not in a high-risk area, fortunately, I haven't had COVID, but there are people who are listening who have said this summer I got COVID. So what advice do you have for someone in that camp that is healthy, had it naturally this summer? Should they be quick to get this new vaccine?
The best immunity so far observed is what we call hybrid immunity. That's a combination of vaccination plus infection. Now, it's not advisable to seek infection for that purpose, because if you seek infection, you may not get a sufficient dose to elicit the immune reaction you're looking for, and you may get seriously sick, leading to long-term consequences. But if you were unlucky enough to get infected, getting vaccinated on top of that, after a few months after your infection, will actually elicit a better immune response than if you just had one or the other. So I recommend think about your infection almost as if it were a vaccination boost. And 2 months or more after that, seek vaccination.
All good information. Thanks so much, Dr. Deonandan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Dr. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist, associate professor, Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa, joining us this evening.